The radar screen went dark for exactly 3 seconds. In those 3 seconds, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen watched $18 billion worth of naval aircraft disappear from her console, along with the lives of 47 pilots somewhere over the South China Sea. When the screen flickered back to life, chaos erupted in the Tactical Air Control Center aboard the USS Roosevelt. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. Officers shouted coordinates, communication systems crackled with static, and somewhere in that digital storm, Sarah saw what everyone else missed. A single blip, moving in a pattern that defied every tactical manual she'd memorized during her 8 years behind a desk. The brass called her the desk pilot. Never to her face, of course, but Sarah heard the whispers in the corridors and the barely concealed smirks during briefings. 29 years old, MIT graduate, top of her class in both computer science and aeronautical engineering, yet she'd never pulled more than 6 gigaseconds in a fighter jet. While her academy classmates were logging combat hours over hostile territories, Sarah spent her days staring at screens, analyzing flight patterns, and coordinating missions from the safety of air-conditioned control rooms. To them, she was just another tech officer who understood numbers better than she understood flying. What they didn't know was that Sarah had applied for flight training 7 times. 7 rejections, each one citing different reasons. First, it was her vision, a slight astigmatism that disqualified her from pilot training but was perfect for the precision work of tactical coordination. Then it was her psychological evaluation, where some Navy psychiatrist decided she was too analytical, too cautious for the split-second decisions required in aerial combat. The final rejection came with a reassignment to the Tactical Air Control Division, where Captain Morrison told her she'd be more valuable to the Navy using her brain than risking her neck in a cockpit. Sarah's journey to this moment began 6 years earlier at the Naval Academy, where she graduated summa cum laude with a double major that made her professors assume she'd become a researcher or defense contractor. Her father, a retired Marine colonel, had different expectations. He'd flown Phantoms over Vietnam and expected his daughter to follow in his contrails. When Sarah received her commission as a naval flight officer instead of a pilot, the disappointment in his voice during their phone call was unmistakable. Her mother, a former Air Force communications specialist, was more understanding but still asked when Sarah might reapply for flight training. The USS Roosevelt had become Sarah's floating office for the past 18 months. As the ship's senior tactical coordinator, she managed air operations for the Carrier Strike Group's 96 aircraft. Her workspace was a maze of computer monitors, communication equipment, and classified tactical displays that showed real-time positions of every friendly aircraft within a 1,000-mile radius. The job required her to think like a chess grandmaster and react like a fighter pilot, orchestrating complex aerial ballet where a single miscommunication could result in mid-air collisions or friendly fire incidents. Her direct supervisor, Commander James Morrison, was a former F-18 pilot with 3 deployments and a distinguished Flying Cross who never let anyone forget his credentials. Morrison treated Sarah with professional courtesy but made it clear that she was support staff, not a real naval aviator. During briefings, he'd explain mission parameters to the pilots while directing Sarah to handle logistics and paperwork. When discussing tactical decisions, Morrison would often preface his remarks by saying he was talking to the real pilots in the room, as if Sarah's presence was merely administrative. The other tactical officers respected Sarah's technical expertise, but viewed her as a specialist rather than a peer. Lieutenant Rodriguez, who'd washed out of flight training due to air sickness, often reminded everyone that he'd at least made it through basic flight instruction. Lieutenant Commander Park, a former Navy pilot who'd been grounded after a training accident damaged his inner ear, treated Sarah kindly but with the protective attitude of someone who'd experienced real flight operations. To them, Sarah was exceptionally competent at her job but fundamentally different from officers who'd actually flown military aircraft. Sarah's reputation for precision had earned her assignments to high-profile operations. She'd coordinated air support for 3 major humanitarian missions, managed aerial refueling operations during a typhoon evacuation, and successfully guided damaged aircraft back to carrier decks through instrument-only approaches. Her superiors praised her analytical skills and attention to detail in fitness reports, consistently rating her performance as exceptional. Yet every conversation about advancement or additional responsibilities came with subtle reminders that her experience was theoretical rather than practical. The Roosevelt was conducting joint exercises with Allied Pacific Fleet units when the crisis began. Operation Pacific Thunder involved coordinated strikes against simulated enemy positions across multiple time zones, requiring precise timing and flawless communication between American, Japanese, and Australian naval forces. Sarah had spent weeks developing the coordination protocols, creating backup communication plans, and running computer simulations to optimize aircraft routing and fuel management. The operation represented months of planning involving hundreds of personnel across multiple countries. 3 days before the incident, Sarah noticed irregularities in their communication systems during routine testing. Signal strength fluctuated unpredictably, satellite uplinks experienced brief interruptions, and radar coverage showed occasional gaps that lasted milliseconds. She documented these anomalies in detailed reports to Commander Morrison, recommending postponement of Pacific Thunder until engineers could identify and resolve the technical issues. Morrison dismissed her concerns, explaining that minor communication glitches were normal during large-scale operations, and that the mission timeline couldn't accommodate delays. The morning of Pacific Thunder began with a perfect sunrise over calm seas. Sarah arrived at the Tactical Air Control Center at 0500 hours, 2 hours before her scheduled shift, to conduct final systems checks. Everything appeared normal. Radar systems showed clear resolution, communication channels tested at full strength, and satellite connections registered optimal signal quality. The first wave of aircraft launched at 0630 18 F-18 Super Hornets, tasked with establishing air superiority over the exercise area. Sarah tracked their progress on her primary display, monitoring fuel consumption, communication status, and tactical positioning. By 0700 hours, 47 aircraft were airborne across multiple mission profiles. Strike fighters were approaching their target coordinates, electronic warfare aircraft were monitoring enemy communications, and aerial refueling tankers were positioned to support extended operations. Sarah coordinated between air traffic control, mission commanders, and individual flight leaders, ensuring each aircraft remained within its assigned parameters while maintaining overall mission timeline. The complexity required constant attention to dozens of variables simultaneously, but Sarah thrived in this environment where her analytical skills could contribute meaningfully to naval operations. Commander Morrison observed from the elevated supervisory station, occasionally calling down questions about fuel status or timing estimates. He'd assigned Lieutenant Rodriguez to shadow Sarah during the operation, ostensibly for training purposes, though Rodriguez spent most of his time taking notes rather than actively participating in tactical coordination. Lieutenant Commander Park monitored electronic warfare frequencies, occasionally sharing information about simulated enemy radar activity. The atmosphere in the control center was professional but tense, with everyone aware that mistakes during high-profile exercises could affect career advancement and unit reputation. At 0815 hours, Sarah noticed the first sign of trouble. Aircraft Bravo 7, an F-18 piloted by Lieutenant Jennifer Walsh, reported intermittent communication issues. Walsh's voice cut in and out over the radio, and her aircraft's transponder signal flickered occasionally on Sarah's radar display. Sarah attempted to establish alternative communication through backup frequencies and directed Walsh to check her equipment status. For several minutes, the problem seemed to resolve itself, with clear communications and stable radar contact restored. Similar incidents began occurring with increasing frequency over the next 30 minutes. Pilots reported brief communication blackouts. Radar operators noticed occasional transponder failures, and Sarah observed systematic degradation in satellite uplink quality. She documented each incident, noting timestamps and affected aircraft, while simultaneously maintaining operational coordination for the continuing exercise. Her training had prepared her to handle multiple emergencies simultaneously, but the pattern of failures suggested something beyond routine equipment malfunctions. The situation escalated dramatically at 0857 hours when the primary radar system experienced what technicians later described as a cascade failure. Sarah watched her main tactical display flicker, showing aircraft positions that updated sporadically rather than in real time. Secondary radar systems remained functional, but they lacked the resolution and range needed for precise tactical coordination. She immediately notified Commander Morrison, who ordered technicians to begin emergency troubleshooting procedures while directing Sarah to maintain operations using backup systems. Sarah's years of training and experience managing complex technical systems proved invaluable during the developing crisis. She quickly adapted her coordination methods to work with degraded radar coverage, using pilot position reports and timing estimates to maintain situational awareness. Her computer science background enabled her to identify which systems were failing and which remained reliable, allowing her to route communications through functional channels while avoiding systems experiencing intermittent problems. Other officers watched with growing respect as Sarah maintained operational control despite equipment failures that would have challenged even experienced pilots. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The moment that changed everything arrived without warning at 0912 hours. Sarah's radar screen went completely dark for 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. When the display restored, chaos erupted throughout the control center. 18 aircraft had disappeared from radar coverage, their last known positions scattered across 300 square miles of open ocean. Communication attempts yielded only static, backup systems showed no contact, and satellite tracking indicated possible equipment failures aboard multiple aircraft simultaneously. In those first terrible moments, Sarah realized that nearly half the operation's aircraft had vanished from all monitoring systems. Commander Morrison immediately declared a search and rescue emergency, directing all available aircraft to establish visual contact with the missing flights. Sarah coordinated the emergency response, vectoring search aircraft toward last known positions while attempting to re-establish communication through every available channel. The missing pilots included some of the Navy's most experienced aviators, flying aircraft worth hundreds of millions of dollars, yet they disappeared as completely as if they'd never existed. Sarah's tactical displays showed empty ocean, where moments before she'd tracked precisely coordinated formations executing complex mission profiles. The search efforts yielded nothing but frustration during the first critical hour. Rescue aircraft reported clear visibility and calm seas, but no sign of the missing aircraft. Sarah expanded search patterns beyond the originally assigned exercise areas, calculating possible flight paths based on fuel consumption and timing estimates. Her analytical approach provided search coordinators with systematic coverage patterns that maximized the probability of locating survivors, but each negative report increased the likelihood that 47 pilots had been lost due to some catastrophic system failure. As the crisis deepened, Sarah found herself at the center of an investigation that would determine responsibility for the greatest peacetime naval aviation disaster in decades. Admiral Richardson, the strike group commander, arrived in the tactical control center demanding explanations that no one could provide. Senior officers huddled over communication equipment, attempting to coordinate with higher headquarters while managing the expanding search operation. Sarah continued monitoring her displays, hoping for any sign that might indicate the missing aircraft's location, when she noticed something that everyone else had missed. On her secondary radar display, partially hidden among the electronic noise generated by system failures, a single contact moved in a pattern that violated every tactical manual she'd studied. The blip appeared intermittently, lasting only seconds before disappearing again, but its movement suggested controlled flight rather than equipment malfunction. Sarah tracked the contact's apparent course, calculating speed and heading based on the brief radar returns. If her analysis was correct, someone was flying in radio silence toward a position that placed them directly between the carrier group and potential hostile forces. The implications of Sarah's discovery would reshape her understanding of the crisis and force her to make decisions that would determine whether she remained forever known as the desk pilot or finally proved that her analytical mind was as valuable as any pilot's reflexes. In that moment, staring at a radar contact that shouldn't exist, Sarah realized that everything she'd learned about leadership, tactical thinking, and naval operations was about to be tested in ways that no simulation or training exercise could have prepared her for. The lives of 47 pilots depended on decisions she would make in the next few minutes, and failure would mean accepting responsibility for the greatest disaster in her unit's history. Sarah's fingers moved across her keyboard with practiced precision, isolating the anomalous radar contact from the background interference that plagued their systems. The blip appeared for 12 seconds, disappeared for 43, then returned in a slightly different position that suggested deliberate course corrections rather than random system errors. She cross-referenced the contact's apparent speed and altitude with known aircraft performance parameters, narrowing the possibilities to military fighter aircraft operating well outside authorized exercise boundaries. Commander Morrison stood behind her workstation, studying the same displays with growing frustration. His weathered face reflected the stress of commanding a search operation that had produced no results after 90 minutes of intensive effort. 47 missing pilots represented not just a personal tragedy, but a career-ending disaster that would follow him for the remainder of his naval service. When Sarah attempted to draw his attention to the intermittent radar contact, Morrison dismissed her observation without serious consideration. "That's just system noise, Lieutenant Commander Chen. Our technicians are working to restore full radar capability, but right now I need you focused on coordinating the search patterns. Every minute we waste chasing electronic ghosts is another minute those pilots are floating in life rafts or clinging to wreckage." Morrison's tone carried the authority of someone accustomed to having his tactical decisions accepted without question, but Sarah noticed something in his expression that suggested doubt about his own assessment. Sarah returned her attention to the search coordination, vectoring rescue aircraft toward expanded search areas, while maintaining communication with surface vessels approaching the last known positions of the missing formations. The systematic nature of her approach impressed the other tactical officers, who watched her manage multiple rescue operations simultaneously while tracking fuel consumption and coordinating with air traffic control. Yet even as she performed these duties flawlessly, part of her consciousness remained focused on the mysterious radar contact that continued its purposeful movement toward an unknown destination. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached Sarah's workstation carrying a steaming coffee mug and a folder of updated search coordinates. His earlier condescending attitude had been replaced by genuine respect as he observed her handling of the crisis. "Sarah, I've been monitoring the emergency frequencies, and there's something strange about the radio silence. Normally, even if aircraft experience complete electrical failure, we'd expect to hear emergency locator beacons, or at least some form of distress signal. It's like they just vanished completely." The observation aligned with Sarah's own assessment of the situation. Military aircraft carried multiple redundant communication systems specifically designed to prevent total communication loss. Emergency locator transmitters activated automatically during crashes, survival radios provided backup communication capability, and personal locator beacons ensured that individual pilots could signal rescuers even after ejecting from disabled aircraft. The complete absence of any distress signals suggested either catastrophic destruction of all aircraft simultaneously or something more complex than equipment failure. Admiral Richardson entered the Tactical Control Center accompanied by 2 staff officers and the ship's communications specialist. His presence immediately elevated the tension level, as everyone recognized that decisions made during the next few hours would be scrutinized by congressional investigators and military tribunals. The Admiral's reputation for holding subordinates accountable for operational failures was well known throughout the Pacific Fleet, and his grim expression suggested that someone would bear responsibility for the developing disaster. "Sarah, I need a complete tactical assessment of this situation." The Admiral's voice carried the weight of 30 years of naval service and combat experience. "What are the possibilities we're dealing with here, and what resources do we need to maximize our chances of recovery?" His direct approach to seeking her professional opinion surprised everyone present, including Commander Morrison, who typically served as the intermediary between senior leadership and technical staff. The request forced Sarah to articulate analysis she'd been developing throughout the crisis. "Sir, the simultaneous loss of contact with multiple aircraft suggests either coordinated enemy action or systematic failure of communication and navigation systems. The absence of distress signals indicates that whatever happened occurred too quickly for emergency procedures, or the aircraft are operating under radio silence for tactical reasons. Based on fuel consumption calculations, the missing aircraft have approximately 40 minutes of flight time remaining before they must either land or attempt emergency water landings." Admiral Richardson studied the tactical displays while Sarah explained her assessment, occasionally asking specific questions about timing and aircraft performance characteristics. His decades of aviation experience enabled him to understand the tactical details while focusing on operational implications. Sarah's analytical approach impressed him, particularly her ability to present complex information clearly despite the pressure of the unfolding emergency. When she mentioned the intermittent radar contact, however, his reaction differed significantly from Commander Morrison's dismissal. "Show me this contact, Lieutenant Commander." The Admiral's request carried unmistakable authority, causing Commander Morrison to step closer to Sarah's workstation. Sarah isolated the radar returns on her secondary display, highlighting the brief appearances of the unknown aircraft among the electronic interference. The contact's movement pattern became more apparent when displayed as a series of position updates over time, revealing a deliberate course toward coordinates that placed it between the carrier group and the exercise area where aircraft had disappeared. Admiral Richardson studied the radar data with the focused attention of someone who'd spent decades interpreting tactical information under combat conditions. The contact's speed and altitude suggested military aircraft, but its position and heading violated established air traffic control procedures and exercise boundaries. More concerning was its apparent course toward a position that would provide ideal observation of American naval operations while remaining outside the range of most detection systems. "This isn't system noise, Commander Morrison." The Admiral's statement carried implications that extended far beyond technical assessment. "Sarah, I want you to track this contact using every available system. If it's one of our missing aircraft, we need to establish communication immediately. If it's not one of ours, we need to know who's operating military aircraft in our exercise area without authorization." The possibility that the mysterious radar contact represented foreign surveillance or hostile action transformed the crisis from a search and rescue operation into a potential national security incident. Sarah expanded her monitoring efforts to include electronic warfare sensors, satellite tracking systems, and long-range radar installations aboard other ships in the strike group. The additional data sources provided a clearer picture of the unknown aircraft's capabilities and intentions, but they also revealed information that challenged everyone's assumptions about the missing pilots. Lieutenant Commander Park approached Sarah's workstation carrying printouts from the electronic warfare monitoring station. "Sarah, we've detected intermittent radio transmissions on frequencies used by Chinese naval aviation units. The signals are heavily encrypted, but the timing corresponds with the appearances of your radar contact. It's possible we're dealing with foreign reconnaissance aircraft rather than equipment malfunctions." The intelligence significantly altered Sarah's analysis of the situation. Foreign aircraft operating near American naval exercises represented serious security violations that could escalate into international incidents if not handled properly. Yet the timing of the mysterious transmissions raised questions about whether the missing American aircraft had encountered foreign forces rather than experiencing equipment failures. Sarah began correlating the electronic intelligence with radar data, searching for patterns that might explain both the missing pilots and the unknown aircraft. Commander Morrison reviewed the accumulated evidence with growing concern about its implications for his career and the broader strategic situation. If foreign aircraft had interfered with American naval operations, his decisions during the crisis would be evaluated by intelligence agencies and military prosecutors seeking to assign responsibility. The pressure of command during a developing international incident weighed heavily on his shoulders, particularly given his limited experience with situations that fell outside routine training exercises. "Sarah, I need you to take point on tracking this unknown aircraft." Morrison's assignment represented both recognition of her analytical capabilities and an attempt to distance himself from potentially controversial tactical decisions. "Use whatever resources you need, but I want real-time updates on its position and any communication intercepts. If this turns into something bigger than a search and rescue, I need complete documentation of everything we observed and every decision we made." The expanded responsibility placed Sarah at the center of an operation that exceeded anything covered in her training or previous experience. Tracking potentially hostile aircraft while coordinating search operations for missing pilots required her to synthesize information from multiple sources while making rapid decisions about resource allocation and tactical priorities. Her computer science background proved invaluable as she developed automated tracking algorithms that could distinguish the unknown aircraft's radar signature from background interference and system malfunctions. As Sarah worked to establish consistent tracking of the mysterious contact, she began noticing patterns in its behavior that suggested sophisticated understanding of American radar capabilities and procedures. The aircraft appeared at positions and times that minimized its exposure to detection systems, following routes that exploited known gaps in radar coverage. This level of tactical sophistication indicated professional military training and detailed intelligence about American naval operations. The breakthrough came when Sarah cross-referenced the timing of the mysterious aircraft's appearances with the original communication failures experienced by the missing American pilots. The correlation was unmistakable. Each time the unknown aircraft appeared on radar, American pilots had reported communication difficulties or equipment malfunctions. The pattern suggested deliberate electronic warfare operations designed to disrupt American aircraft systems while maintaining plausible deniability about hostile intent. Admiral Richardson studied Sarah's analysis with the grim recognition of someone who understood its implications for international relations and military strategy. If foreign forces had actively interfered with American naval operations, the incident would require diplomatic responses at the highest levels of government. Yet proving deliberate interference, rather than coincidental equipment failures, would require evidence that might not exist if the unknown aircraft successfully avoided detection. Sarah, I need you to predict where this aircraft will appear next. The Admiral's request represented both confidence in her analytical abilities and recognition that her technical approach might provide the only means of gathering definitive evidence about foreign involvement. If we can establish continuous tracking and document its electronic warfare capabilities, we'll have proof of what really happened to our missing pilots. The challenge required Sarah to analyze the unknown aircraft's previous movement patterns, while considering tactical factors that might influence its pilot's decision-making. She developed probability matrices based on radar coverage gaps, fuel consumption estimates, and potential reconnaissance objectives, creating predictive models that identified areas where the aircraft was most likely to appear. Her approach combined mathematical analysis with tactical thinking, demonstrating the analytical skills that her superiors had previously dismissed as merely technical support. The prediction proved accurate when the unknown aircraft appeared exactly where Sarah's calculations suggested it would, providing the strike group with its first opportunity to observe the intruder using multiple sensor systems simultaneously. The coordinated observation revealed an aircraft configuration consistent with advanced electronic warfare platforms used by foreign military forces, confirming Sarah's hypothesis about deliberate interference with American operations. Lieutenant Rodriguez monitored communication frequencies while Sarah tracked the aircraft's movement, recording evidence that would later prove crucial in diplomatic negotiations and intelligence assessments. The unknown aircraft's pilot appeared unaware that American forces had detected his presence, continuing electronic warfare operations that disrupted radar systems and communication equipment aboard American vessels. Sarah documented each interference incident, building a comprehensive record of hostile actions that violated international law and naval treaties. The situation escalated when Sarah detected the unknown aircraft maneuvering toward a position that would provide optimal attack geometry against the American carrier group. Her analysis indicated that the foreign aircraft carried advanced anti-ship missiles capable of inflicting catastrophic damage on the Roosevelt and its escort vessels. The transition from reconnaissance to potential attack positioning represented a clear escalation that required immediate defensive measures. Admiral Richardson faced the most critical decision of his career as he evaluated Sarah's tactical assessment against the potential consequences of military action that might trigger international conflict. Engaging a foreign aircraft over international waters carried enormous political and strategic risks, particularly if the intelligence about hostile intentions proved incorrect. Yet allowing a potential enemy to achieve attack position against American naval forces violated every principle of military leadership and national defense. Sarah, I need your assessment of threat probability based on the aircraft's current heading and the capabilities you've identified. The Admiral's request placed enormous responsibility on Sarah's shoulders, as her analysis would influence decisions about potentially starting an armed conflict. Her response would be scrutinized by military tribunals, congressional investigators, and international observers, seeking to understand American decision-making during the crisis. Based on current flight path and observed capabilities, sir, the aircraft will achieve optimal attack position in approximately 8 minutes. Sarah's voice remained steady despite the magnitude of the situation. Electronic warfare emissions indicate active targeting systems, and the pilot's course changes suggest deliberate maneuvering for tactical advantage rather than reconnaissance observation. The assessment provided Admiral Richardson with the information needed to authorize defensive measures that would protect American forces while documenting the hostile nature of the foreign aircraft's activities. Sarah's analytical approach had transformed a confusing crisis into a clear tactical situation where American commanders could take appropriate action based on documented evidence rather than speculation about foreign intentions. As defensive systems activated throughout the strike group, Sarah continued tracking the unknown aircraft while coordinating with intelligence specialists who were analyzing the electronic warfare signatures and communication intercepts. Her role had evolved from technical support to tactical analysis that directly influenced military operations at the strategic level. The transformation represented everything she'd hoped to achieve through flight training, demonstrating that analytical thinking could be as valuable as piloting skills in modern naval warfare. The moment of truth arrived when the unknown aircraft suddenly accelerated toward attack position, confirming Sarah's assessment of hostile intent while triggering defensive responses throughout the American fleet. Yet, even as surface-to-air missiles prepared to engage the intruder, Sarah noticed something on her radar display that would change everything about their understanding of the crisis and transform her from the dismissed desk pilot into the officer whose analysis had prevented disaster while uncovering the truth about 47 missing American pilots. The radar signature that caught Sarah's attention appeared for only 4 seconds, but those 4 seconds revealed something that shattered every assumption about the crisis. 18 distinct contacts materialized simultaneously on her display, moving in perfect formation at an altitude and speed that matched the missing American aircraft. The contacts appeared briefly before vanishing again, but their positions corresponded exactly with the flight paths Sarah had calculated for the missing pilots based on fuel consumption and timing estimates. Sarah's breath caught in her throat as she realized the implications. The missing aircraft weren't lost or destroyed. They were flying in complete radio silence under some form of electronic camouflage that rendered them nearly invisible to radar detection. The brief appearance suggested equipment malfunction in whatever system was concealing them, providing a momentary glimpse of aircraft that had been hidden for over 3 hours. Her hands trembled slightly as she began recording the radar data, knowing that her discovery would fundamentally alter everyone's understanding of the situation. Admiral Richardson noticed Sarah's sudden tension and moved closer to her workstation. The tactical displays showed the hostile foreign aircraft continuing its approach toward attack position. But Sarah's attention was focused on analyzing the brief radar returns that had revealed the missing American pilots. Her analytical mind raced through possibilities, calculating probabilities and cross-referencing sensor data to confirm what seemed impossible according to everything she knew about military aviation and radar technology. "Sir, I'm detecting intermittent radar returns that match our missing aircraft formations." Sarah's voice carried a mixture of excitement and uncertainty as she presented information that contradicted hours of intensive search efforts. The contacts appeared for approximately 4 seconds, at positions consistent with continued flight operations under radio silence. Whatever system was concealing them experienced a brief malfunction that allowed detection before resuming normal operation. The statement caused immediate confusion throughout the tactical control center. Commander Morrison abandoned his position at the communication console to study Sarah's displays, while Lieutenant Rodriguez and Lieutenant Commander Park gathered around her workstation to examine the evidence. The possibility that the missing pilots were actually flying concealed missions violated every protocol and procedure governing naval aviation operations, yet Sarah's data suggested exactly that scenario. Admiral Richardson studied the radar recordings with the focused intensity of someone who understood their potential significance. If the missing aircraft were operating under some form of electronic concealment, it implied coordination with intelligence agencies or special operations units that conducted classified missions beyond the scope of routine naval exercises. Such operations required authorization at the highest levels of government and involved capabilities that most naval personnel never encountered during normal careers. "Sarah, I need you to determine if those radar returns represent our missing aircraft or additional foreign contacts." The Admiral's request acknowledged the complexity of analyzing sensor data that challenged conventional understanding of radar technology in military operations. "Your assessment will determine whether we're dealing with a search and rescue situation, a foreign surveillance operation, or something that falls outside normal military categories." The analysis required Sarah to employ every technique she'd learned during her computer science studies and 8 years of tactical coordination experience. She correlated the brief radar returns with known aircraft performance characteristics, cross-referenced timing with fuel consumption calculations, and analyzed electronic signatures for patterns that might indicate the technology responsible for concealing the aircraft. Her methodology combined scientific rigor with tactical thinking, demonstrating capabilities that exceeded anything expected from traditional technical support personnel. As Sarah worked through the complex analysis, the hostile foreign aircraft continued maneuvering toward attack position, forcing Admiral Richardson to balance immediate defensive requirements against the long-term implications of Sarah's discovery. The unknown aircraft represented a clear and present threat that required defensive action, yet the possibility that American pilots were conducting concealed operations in the same area complicated any decision to engage foreign forces with lethal weapons. The breakthrough came when Sarah detected a specific electronic signature embedded within the radar interference that had plagued their systems throughout the crisis. The signature matched classified specifications for experimental stealth technology being developed by American defense contractors for next-generation military aircraft. The technology was designed to render aircraft virtually invisible to radar detection while maintaining normal flight operations, but it was still in testing phases and not deployed with operational units. Sir, the electronic signature indicates American experimental stealth technology. Sarah's announcement caused stunned silence throughout the control center as everyone absorbed the implications. Our missing aircraft appear to be testing classified concealment systems that were not disclosed during the exercise planning phase. The foreign surveillance aircraft has been attempting to gather intelligence about capabilities that are still under development. Admiral Richardson's expression reflected the gravity of a situation that had evolved from search and rescue to international espionage and classified technology protection. If American aircraft were testing experimental stealth systems during what appeared to be routine training exercises, the security implications extended far beyond the immediate tactical situation. The presence of foreign surveillance aircraft suggested that classified operations had been compromised, potentially revealing critical defense capabilities to hostile intelligence services. Commander Morrison faced the devastating realization that his exercise planning had been used as cover for classified operations that exceeded his security clearance and operational authority. The missing pilots weren't under his command during a training exercise. They were conducting secret missions that required his ignorance to maintain operational security. His career-ending disaster had transformed into something far more complex and politically sensitive than routine command failure. The foreign aircraft pilot appeared unaware that his reconnaissance mission had been detected and continued electronic warfare operations designed to penetrate American stealth technology. Sarah monitored his approach while simultaneously tracking the concealed American aircraft, creating a three-dimensional tactical picture that revealed the true scope of the developing confrontation. Her unique position as the only person who could detect both the foreign intruder and the hidden American pilots placed enormous responsibility on her analytical capabilities. Sarah's analysis revealed that the foreign aircraft was equipped with advanced sensors specifically designed to detect stealth technology under development by American defense contractors. The pilot's course changes and electronic emissions suggested detailed knowledge of American research programs and testing procedures, indicating sophisticated intelligence gathering that preceded the current reconnaissance mission. The operation represented a serious security breach that threatened critical defense technologies, still years away from operational deployment. Lieutenant Commander Park approached Sarah's workstation carrying classified communication equipment that had been secured from the ship's intelligence center. Sarah, I'm authorized to establish contact with the concealed aircraft using emergency frequencies that shouldn't be compromised by foreign monitoring. Admiral Richardson wants you to coordinate communication attempts while maintaining tracking of both the American and foreign aircraft simultaneously. The responsibility placed Sarah at the center of the most complex tactical situation she'd ever encountered. Coordinating communication with aircraft using experimental stealth technology required her to understand classified systems that exceeded her normal security clearance, while tracking the foreign intruder demanded real-time analysis of electronic warfare capabilities that threatened American naval forces. Her performance during the next few minutes would determine whether the crisis escalated into armed conflict or resolved through careful tactical management. Sarah's first communication attempt using the classified emergency frequencies produced immediate results. The concealed American aircraft responded with encrypted transmissions that confirmed their operational status while requesting permission to break radio silence for tactical coordination. The pilots reported successful testing of stealth technology, but expressed concern about foreign electronic warfare interference that threatened to compromise their concealment systems. The revelation that the missing pilots were not only safe but successfully conducting classified missions transformed the tactical situation from disaster recovery to technology protection. Sarah coordinated between the concealed American aircraft and Admiral Richardson's command staff, ensuring that operational security was maintained while addressing the immediate threat posed by the foreign surveillance aircraft. Her role had evolved from search coordinator to communication facilitator for classified operations that required her analytical skills and technical expertise. As Sarah managed communication with the concealed aircraft, she continued monitoring the foreign intruder's approach toward attack position. The hostile pilot's electronic warfare operations had intensified, suggesting awareness that American stealth technology was being tested in the area and determination to gather intelligence regardless of diplomatic consequences. The escalating electronic interference threatened to disable the experimental concealment systems protecting the American aircraft, potentially exposing them to attack or capture. Admiral Richardson faced the critical decision of whether to engage the foreign aircraft before it could complete its intelligence-gathering mission or attempt diplomatic resolution that might preserve classified technology while avoiding armed conflict. Sarah's tactical analysis indicated that the foreign pilot would achieve optimal reconnaissance position within 6 minutes, providing sufficient time for detailed sensor recordings that could compromise years of defense research and development. Sarah's monitoring revealed that the foreign aircraft was transmitting gathered intelligence to external recipients using satellite communication systems that connected to networks beyond American surveillance capabilities. The real-time data transmission meant that valuable intelligence about American stealth technology was already being shared with foreign military and intelligence organizations, regardless of whether the reconnaissance aircraft escaped American defensive measures. The situation deteriorated when Sarah detected additional foreign aircraft approaching the exercise area from multiple directions. Her expanded radar analysis revealed a coordinated intelligence operation involving at least 4 aircraft equipped with specialized sensors designed to penetrate experimental American defense technologies. The discovery transformed the incident from isolated surveillance to systematic espionage that threatened critical national security interests. Commander Morrison attempted to regain control of the situation by directing surface-to-air missile systems to engage the foreign aircraft, but Admiral Richardson overruled the order pending coordination with higher headquarters. The decision reflected understanding that engaging foreign military aircraft over international waters required authorization from political leadership and consideration of diplomatic consequences that extended far beyond immediate tactical concerns. Sarah found herself managing tactical coordination for both the concealed American aircraft and the defensive systems protecting the carrier strike group. Her analytical capabilities enabled her to track multiple aircraft simultaneously, while predicting their movements and calculating optimal defensive positioning. The complexity exceeded anything covered in her training, but her computer science background provided the mathematical foundation needed to synthesize information from multiple sources into a coherent tactical picture. The foreign reconnaissance aircraft suddenly altered course and began rapid acceleration away from the American fleet, suggesting that its mission had been completed or that its pilot had detected American defensive preparations. Sarah tracked the aircraft's departure while monitoring for additional foreign contacts that might represent follow-on intelligence operations or military forces preparing to exploit gathered information about American capabilities. As the immediate threat receded, Sarah's attention returned to coordinating with the concealed American aircraft that were preparing to conclude their classified testing mission. The pilots reported successful evaluation of stealth technology performance under operational conditions, but they expressed concern about foreign awareness of the testing program and potential compromise of future research efforts. Their return to normal radar visibility would require careful coordination to avoid friendly fire incidents from defensive systems that had been activated during the crisis. Admiral Richardson commended Sarah's performance during the developing crisis, acknowledging that her analytical capabilities had been essential to understanding the true nature of the situation and preventing escalation into armed conflict. Her ability to detect and track aircraft using experimental concealment technology had proven invaluable in protecting classified operations while managing foreign intelligence threats. The successful resolution of the crisis represented vindication for Sarah's years of preparation and technical training, but it also revealed the limitations of traditional military thinking when confronted with advanced technology and unconventional threats. Her analytical approach had provided insights that escaped experienced pilots and senior officers, demonstrating that technical expertise could be as valuable as flight experience in modern naval operations. As the concealed American aircraft prepared to return to normal operations, Sarah began documenting the electronic warfare techniques used by foreign forces and the performance characteristics observed during testing of experimental stealth technology. Her detailed analysis would contribute to improving both defensive capabilities and operational security for future classified missions, ensuring that lessons learned during the crisis would enhance American military effectiveness. The crisis had tested every aspect of Sarah's training and experience, forcing her to apply analytical skills under pressure while managing tactical coordination that exceeded her normal responsibilities. Her performance had proven that technical officers could contribute meaningfully to operational decision-making when their expertise was properly utilized and their analytical capabilities were respected by command personnel. Yet, even as the immediate crisis seemed to be resolving, Sarah noticed something on her radar displays that would transform the situation once again and require her to make the most critical decision of her naval career. The pattern emerging on her screens suggested that everything they thought they understood about the foreign intelligence operation was incomplete, and the real test of her abilities was still approaching. The new radar signature that appeared on Sarah's screen defied every principle of physics and aerodynamics she'd studied during her engineering education. The contact moved at speeds that exceeded the capabilities of any known aircraft while executing maneuvers that would generate gravitational forces fatal to human pilots. More disturbing was its apparent ability to appear and disappear at will, suggesting technology far beyond anything in current military inventories or experimental development programs. Sarah's initial assumption that the contact represented equipment malfunction dissolved as she analyzed its movement patterns using advanced tracking algorithms. The object demonstrated purposeful behavior, maintaining precise distances from both the American carrier group and the departing foreign reconnaissance aircraft. Its positioning suggested observation of the entire tactical situation while remaining outside the engagement envelope of conventional weapon systems. Admiral Richardson studied Sarah's latest discovery, with the grim recognition that the crisis had evolved beyond conventional military response capabilities. The presence of aircraft using technology that appeared to violate known physical limitations represented either a breakthrough in aerospace engineering or evidence of capabilities possessed by unknown entities. Either possibility carried implications that extended far beyond immediate tactical concerns to fundamental questions about national security and technological superiority. Sarah, I need your professional assessment of what we're observing. The Admiral's request acknowledged that her technical background provided the most qualified perspective available for analyzing phenomena that challenged conventional understanding. Your analysis will determine how we report this incident and what recommendations we make to higher headquarters about defensive preparations and intelligence-gathering priorities. The responsibility placed enormous pressure on Sarah's analytical capabilities, as she attempted to explain observations that seemed to contradict established scientific principles. Her computer science training provided frameworks for analyzing complex datasets, but the current situation required her to extrapolate beyond known technology toward possibilities that existed only in theoretical research and speculative engineering. Her assessment would influence military planning and resource allocation decisions at the highest levels of government. Sarah's detailed analysis revealed that the mysterious contact exhibited flight characteristics consistent with theoretical aircraft designs that eliminated traditional propulsion limitations through revolutionary energy manipulation techniques. The object's ability to accelerate without apparent thrust signatures suggested propulsion systems that operated on principles not yet understood by mainstream aerospace engineering. Its instantaneous directional changes indicated structural materials and control systems far beyond current manufacturing capabilities. The implications of Sarah's findings extended beyond immediate tactical concerns to fundamental questions about technological development and national defense priorities. If foreign entities possessed aircraft with capabilities decades ahead of American technology, it would represent the most significant military technological gap since the advent of nuclear weapons. The strategic consequences would reshape defense planning and international relations for generations. Lieutenant Commander Park approached Sarah's workstation carrying encrypted communication equipment that connected directly to the Pentagon's most classified intelligence networks. Sarah, the Joint Chiefs want real-time data about this contact. Your analysis is being forwarded to the Secretary of Defense and the President's science advisors. They need to understand what we're dealing with before making decisions about disclosure and defensive measures. The elevation of Sarah's analysis to the highest levels of government represented unprecedented recognition of her technical expertise and analytical capabilities. Her assessment would influence presidential decisions about military preparedness and potentially reshape American understanding of technological possibilities. The transformation from dismissed technical support officer to critical intelligence analyst occurred within hours, demonstrating how crisis situations could reveal capabilities that routine operations never tested. As Sarah transmitted her findings through classified channels, she continued monitoring the mysterious contact while coordinating the return of the concealed American aircraft to normal operations. The complexity of managing multiple tactical situations simultaneously while providing strategic intelligence assessment exceeded anything covered in military training, but her analytical approach enabled her to maintain situational awareness despite the unprecedented circumstances. The concealed American aircraft began their transition back to normal radar visibility, requiring careful coordination to prevent defensive systems from engaging friendly forces that appeared suddenly on tactical displays. Sarah managed the complex process of updating identification codes and coordinating with air traffic control, while simultaneously tracking the mysterious contact that continued its observation of the entire tactical situation. Commander Morrison attempted to regain operational control as the immediate crisis appeared to be resolving, but Admiral Richardson maintained direct oversight of Sarah's activities given the strategic importance of her analysis. The situation highlighted the evolving nature of military operations where technical expertise could become more valuable than traditional command experience when confronting unprecedented technological challenges. The mysterious contact suddenly accelerated toward the American carrier group at speeds that generated sonic booms audible throughout the fleet. Sarah tracked its approach while calculating intercept courses for defensive weapon systems, but the object's velocity exceeded the engagement capabilities of even the most advanced surface-to-air missiles. Her analysis indicated that conventional defensive measures would be ineffective against technology that operated beyond known performance parameters. Sarah's tactical displays showed the contact executing maneuvers directly above the carrier group while maintaining an altitude that placed it outside the effective range of close-in weapon systems. The object appeared to be conducting detailed reconnaissance of American naval capabilities, potentially gathering intelligence that would reveal defensive weaknesses and technological limitations. Its presence demonstrated technological superiority that rendered traditional military defenses obsolete. Admiral Richardson faced the most critical decision of his career as he evaluated options for responding to an entity that possessed overwhelming technological advantages. Engaging the contact with conventional weapons would likely prove ineffective while potentially provoking retaliation from forces with capabilities beyond American defensive measures. Yet allowing unrestricted reconnaissance of American naval operations violated every principle of national defense and military security. Sarah detected changes in the mysterious contact's electronic emissions that suggested activation of sophisticated sensor systems designed to penetrate classified American technologies. The object appeared to be conducting the same type of intelligence gathering attempted by the foreign reconnaissance aircraft, but with capabilities that made defensive countermeasures impossible. Her analysis indicated that the entity was systematically cataloging American military capabilities for purposes that remained unknown. The breakthrough in Sarah's understanding came when she correlated the timing of the mysterious contact's appearance with the activation of the experimental stealth technology being tested by the concealed American aircraft. The object had materialized precisely when the stealth systems experienced their brief malfunction, suggesting that it possessed sensors capable of detecting even the most advanced concealment technologies. Its subsequent behavior indicated systematic evaluation of American defensive and offensive capabilities. Sarah's analysis revealed that the mysterious contact was transmitting gathered intelligence using communication methods that operated beyond known electromagnetic spectrum limitations. The transmissions appeared to utilize quantum entanglement principles that enabled instantaneous information transfer regardless of distance, suggesting technological development that exceeded American capabilities by decades or centuries. The implications for national security were staggering. Admiral Richardson authorized Sarah to attempt communication with the mysterious contact using every available frequency and protocol, hoping to establish dialogue that might reveal its intentions and capabilities. Sarah transmitted standard identification requests, diplomatic contact procedures, and mathematical sequences designed to demonstrate peaceful intent, but the object continued its reconnaissance activities without responding to any communication attempts. The situation escalated when additional mysterious contacts appeared simultaneously at locations throughout the Pacific Ocean, suggesting coordinated observation of American military operations across multiple theaters. Sarah's expanded monitoring revealed similar objects conducting reconnaissance of naval installations, air bases, and strategic facilities throughout the region. The scope of the surveillance operation indicated capabilities and resources that exceeded any known military organization. Sarah found herself coordinating intelligence gathering about phenomena that challenged fundamental assumptions about technology and national defense, while maintaining tactical oversight of conventional military operations. Her unique position as the only person capable of detecting and tracking the mysterious contacts made her assessment critical to understanding threats that could reshape global military balance and international relations. The concealed American aircraft completed their return to normal operations, but their pilots reported unusual equipment behavior during the transition that suggested external interference with their experimental systems. Sarah correlated their reports with her observations of the mysterious contact's activities, confirming that the object possessed capabilities to interact with and potentially disable even the most advanced American military technologies. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached Sarah's workstation carrying urgent communications from Pacific Fleet headquarters requesting detailed tactical assessment of the developing situation. "Sarah, Admiral Phillips wants to know if we're dealing with foreign technology breakthrough or something that falls outside conventional military categories. Your analysis will determine fleet-wide defensive posture and alert status throughout the Pacific theater." The request placed Sarah's assessment at the center of decisions that would affect thousands of personnel and billions of dollars worth of military equipment. Her technical analysis would influence whether the Pacific Fleet prepared for conventional military threats or adapted to challenges that exceeded existing defensive capabilities. The responsibility represented the ultimate validation of her analytical skills and technical expertise. Sarah's comprehensive analysis revealed that the mysterious contacts exhibited technological capabilities consistent with either revolutionary breakthrough in aerospace engineering or evidence of non-human intelligence with access to advanced technologies. Her assessment acknowledged both possibilities while focusing on observable capabilities and their implications for American military planning and national defense priorities. The mysterious contact that had been observing the carrier group suddenly departed at velocities that generated atmospheric effects visible from the ship's deck. Sarah tracked its acceleration until it exceeded the range of all detection systems, disappearing as completely as it had appeared. The demonstration of overwhelming technological superiority left everyone questioning their understanding of aerospace capabilities and defensive requirements. Admiral Richardson commended Sarah's performance during the unprecedented crisis, acknowledging that her analytical capabilities had been essential to understanding threats that exceeded conventional military experience. Her ability to detect, track, and analyze phenomena that challenged established scientific principles had provided critical intelligence for decisions at the highest levels of government and military command. The successful management of the crisis represented complete vindication of Sarah's years of preparation and technical training. Her analytical approach had proven superior to traditional military thinking when confronting challenges that exceeded conventional experience and training. The transformation from dismissed technical support officer to critical strategic analyst demonstrated that expertise and intellectual capability could be as valuable as physical courage and flight experience. Secretary of Defense Thompson arrived aboard the Roosevelt 12 hours after the incident, accompanied by senior intelligence officials and scientific advisors who had been analyzing Sarah's reports and recommendations. Her detailed documentation of the mysterious contacts had become the foundation for reassessing American defensive capabilities and technological development priorities. The meeting represented recognition at the highest levels of government that her analysis had revealed threats requiring fundamental changes in military planning. Sarah's briefing to the Secretary of Defense and his staff provided comprehensive assessment of the technological capabilities observed during the crisis, their implications for national security, and recommendations for defensive preparations and research priorities. Her presentation demonstrated analytical skills and technical expertise that impressed officials accustomed to working with the nation's most qualified scientists and military professionals. The Secretary acknowledged that Sarah's analysis had revealed gaps in American technological capabilities that required immediate attention and resource allocation. Her recommendations for defensive measures and research priorities would influence military budgets and strategic planning for decades. The recognition represented unprecedented elevation from technical support role to strategic advisor at the highest levels of government. 3 months after the crisis, Sarah received notification of her selection for promotion to full commander and assignment as Director of Advanced Threat Analysis for the Pacific Fleet. The position represented recognition of her unique capabilities and the importance of analytical thinking in addressing threats that exceeded conventional military experience. Her new responsibilities would involve coordinating intelligence assessment and defensive planning for phenomena that challenged traditional understanding of aerospace technology and national defense. The experimental stealth technology tested during the crisis was accelerated into full development, based partly on Sarah's recommendations about defensive requirements revealed by the encounter with the mysterious contacts. Her analysis of foreign electronic warfare capabilities and advanced reconnaissance techniques contributed to improving American concealment technologies and operational security procedures for classified programs. Commander Morrison was reassigned to administrative duties pending review of his handling of the crisis, but the investigation revealed that his decisions had been appropriate given the information available to him at the time. The incident highlighted the importance of technical expertise in modern military operations and led to revised training programs that emphasized analytical thinking and technological assessment capabilities. The foreign reconnaissance aircraft that had attempted to gather intelligence about American stealth technology was identified through international diplomatic channels as operating without authorization from its nation's government. The incident led to improved cooperation between American and Allied intelligence services for detecting and countering unauthorized surveillance operations that threatened classified defense technologies. Sarah's transformation from the dismissed desk pilot to Director of Advanced Threat Analysis represented more than personal vindication. It demonstrated that intellectual capability and analytical thinking were essential qualifications for military leadership in an era of technological advancement and unconventional threats. Her success proved that expertise and preparation could be as valuable as traditional military experience when confronting challenges that exceeded established procedures and training. The mysterious contacts observed during the crisis were never conclusively identified, but Sarah's documentation provided the foundation for ongoing research into advanced aerospace technologies and defensive measures against capabilities that exceeded known scientific principles. Her analysis contributed to establishing new research priorities and defensive preparations that acknowledged the possibility of threats beyond conventional military planning. Sarah's story became required reading at the Naval Academy and other military institutions as an example of how analytical thinking and technical expertise could contribute to successful crisis management and strategic planning. Her approach to understanding complex technological challenges provided a model for future officers who would face threats requiring intellectual capability rather than traditional military responses. The woman who had been called the desk pilot because she'd never flown in combat had proven that her analytical mind and technical expertise were as valuable as any pilot's reflexes when facing the impossible. Her ability to see patterns that others missed, to analyze data that others dismissed, and to maintain analytical clarity under pressure had saved not just 47 pilots but potentially the entire Pacific Fleet from threats they never saw coming. Sometimes the most important battles weren't fought in the sky, but in the quiet determination to trust analysis over assumption, data over tradition, and intellectual courage over physical bravado. 2 years after the incident that changed everything, Commander Sarah Chen stood in the Pentagon's most classified briefing room, addressing an audience that included the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the Director of National Intelligence, and representatives from allied nations who had been read into the program she now directed. The Advanced Threat Analysis Division had grown from a theoretical concept born out of crisis into the military's premier organization for understanding and countering technological challenges that exceeded conventional defense capabilities. The presentation Sarah delivered that morning would reshape international military cooperation and establish protocols for addressing phenomena that challenged traditional understanding of aerospace technology and national security. Her analysis had evolved from tracking mysterious radar contacts to developing comprehensive frameworks for detecting, analyzing, and responding to technological capabilities that operated beyond known scientific principles. The transformation from dismissed technical officer to strategic advisor at the highest levels of government represented vindication not just for her personally, but for the value of analytical thinking in modern military operations. General Patricia Hayes, the current chairman of the Joint Chiefs, introduced Sarah to the assembled officials with recognition that would have seemed impossible during her years as the overlooked desk pilot. Commander Chen's analytical capabilities have proven essential to understanding threats that traditional military thinking could not address. Her approach to technological assessment and crisis management has become the foundation for defensive planning across all service branches and our allied partners. Sarah's briefing began with comprehensive analysis of the technological capabilities observed during what military historians now called the Pacific Anomaly Incident. Her detailed documentation had provided the scientific foundation for research programs that were revolutionizing American understanding of aerospace engineering and defensive requirements. The mysterious contacts that had appeared during the crisis remained unexplained, but Sarah's methodical approach to analyzing their capabilities had enabled defensive preparations that addressed previously unknown vulnerabilities. The Advanced Threat Analysis Division now operated from a secure facility at the Pentagon that combined cutting-edge analytical equipment with the most sophisticated computer systems available to the American military. Sarah's team included physicists, engineers, computer scientists, and intelligence analysts who shared her commitment to understanding phenomena that challenged conventional scientific knowledge. Their work influenced research priorities and defensive planning for threats that might not emerge for decades but required preparation based on theoretical possibilities rather than observed capabilities. Sarah's success had inspired changes throughout the military education system, with analytical thinking and technological assessment becoming required curriculum at service academies and professional military education programs. Her approach to crisis management was studied as an example of how intellectual capability and technical expertise could contribute to mission success when traditional military responses proved inadequate. Young officers now trained to recognize situations where analytical thinking might be more valuable than conventional tactical responses. The presentation Sarah delivered to the international audience included declassified portions of her analysis from the Pacific Anomaly incident, demonstrating methodologies for detecting and tracking technological capabilities that operated beyond known performance parameters. Her techniques had been adapted for use by allied military organizations facing similar challenges, creating international cooperation frameworks that shared analytical capabilities while protecting classified technologies and operational methods. Captain Maria Vasquez, Sarah's former academy classmate who now served as her deputy director, had witnessed Sarah's transformation from overlooked technical officer to strategic leader whose analysis influenced decisions at the highest levels of government. The irony was not lost on either of them that Sarah's rejected applications for flight training had led to expertise that proved more valuable than piloting skills when confronting threats that exceeded conventional military experience. Sarah's division had investigated 17 incidents similar to the Pacific Anomaly during the 2 years since its establishment, developing analytical protocols that enabled rapid assessment of technological capabilities and threat evaluation. Each investigation had refined their understanding of phenomena that challenged established scientific principles while providing defensive recommendations that protected American military operations from technological vulnerabilities they never knew existed. The briefing included analysis of international incidents where Allied military forces had encountered similar technological anomalies, demonstrating that the challenges Sarah had addressed were not isolated to American operations. Her analytical frameworks had been adapted for use by NATO allies, Pacific partners, and intelligence organizations worldwide, creating unprecedented cooperation in addressing threats that transcended national boundaries and conventional military categories. General Hayes requested Sarah's assessment of long-term implications for military planning and defensive requirements based on accumulated analysis from multiple incidents involving advanced technological capabilities. The question acknowledged that Sarah's expertise had become essential to understanding strategic challenges that would influence military development and international relations for generations. Her response would help determine resource allocation and research priorities for emerging threats that might not fully manifest for decades. Sarah's comprehensive assessment outlined scenarios where technological capabilities similar to those observed during the Pacific Anomaly could reshape global military balance and international relations. Her analysis included recommendations for defensive preparations, research priorities, and international cooperation frameworks that addressed challenges requiring intellectual capability rather than traditional military responses. The presentation demonstrated analytical thinking that impressed officials accustomed to working with the nation's most qualified strategic planners. The transformation of Sarah's career represented broader changes in military thinking about the value of intellectual capability and analytical expertise in addressing modern security challenges. Her success had influenced personnel policies that recognized technical competence as a critical qualification for military leadership, leading to career advancement opportunities for officers whose contributions fell outside traditional combat roles. Lieutenant General Robert Kim, the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, approached Sarah after her presentation to discuss expansion of analytical capabilities throughout the intelligence community. Commander Chen, your methodologies for technological assessment have applications beyond military operations. We need similar analytical frameworks for understanding economic warfare, cyber threats, and information operations that challenge traditional intelligence categories. The request represented recognition that Sarah's approach to analyzing unprecedented challenges had broader applications than aerospace threats and military technology. Her analytical thinking could contribute to understanding complex threats that operated across multiple domains simultaneously, requiring synthesis of information from sources that traditional intelligence analysis often treated separately. The expansion would place her expertise at the center of strategic planning that addressed national security challenges comprehensively. Sarah's influence extended beyond government and military circles to academic institutions where her analytical methods were taught as examples of applied systems thinking and technological assessment. Universities developed curricula based on her approach to understanding complex phenomena, creating educational programs that prepared students for careers addressing challenges that required intellectual capability rather than traditional technical training. The Naval Academy had established the Chen Center for Advanced Analysis, where midshipmen studied Sarah's methodologies for technological assessment and crisis management. The center provided training that emphasized analytical thinking and intellectual courage, preparing future officers for careers where technical expertise might be more valuable than traditional military experience. Sarah served as a visiting lecturer, sharing insights about the importance of intellectual preparation for addressing unprecedented challenges. Dr. Elizabeth Morrison, Sarah's former supervisor's daughter, who had followed her inspiration into aerospace engineering, completed her doctoral dissertation on analytical frameworks for understanding technological anomalies based on Sarah's published research. The work demonstrated how Sarah's influence had inspired a new generation of scientists and engineers who approached technological challenges with methodologies that combined rigorous analysis with intellectual openness to possibilities beyond established scientific knowledge. Sarah's personal life had been transformed by her professional success, but she maintained the analytical discipline and intellectual humility that had enabled her breakthrough during the Pacific Anomaly Crisis. Her marriage to Dr. James Chen, a theoretical physicist who shared her commitment to understanding complex phenomena, provided personal stability that supported her demanding professional responsibilities. Their discussions about scientific methodology and analytical thinking contributed to refinements in her approach to technological assessment. The couple's daughter, Amy, showed early interest in analytical thinking and scientific methodology that reminded Sarah of her own childhood fascination with understanding how complex systems operated. Sarah encouraged Amy's curiosity while emphasizing the importance of intellectual courage and analytical discipline that had enabled her own success. The next generation would face challenges that required even more sophisticated analytical capabilities than the threats Sarah had addressed. Admiral Jennifer Walsh, the pilot whose communication difficulties had been among the first signs of the crisis that launched Sarah's career transformation, now served as commander of Pacific Fleet Air Operations. Her perspective on Sarah's analytical capabilities reflected the respect that operational personnel had developed for intellectual expertise that complemented rather than replaced traditional military skills. The combination of operational experience and analytical thinking had proven essential to addressing modern security challenges. Sarah's division received requests for analytical support from international organizations addressing technological challenges that transcended national boundaries and conventional institutional capabilities. The United Nations, NATO, and regional security partnerships sought her expertise for understanding phenomena that required analytical frameworks rather than traditional diplomatic or military responses. Her influence had expanded beyond American military operations to global security planning. The establishment of the International Center for Advanced Threat Analysis represented institutionalization of Sarah's analytical approaches through cooperative frameworks that addressed challenges requiring intellectual capability and scientific methodology. Sarah served as the center's first director, coordinating analytical capabilities across multiple nations while protecting classified technologies and operational methods. The position represented recognition at the highest levels of international security cooperation. Congressional testimony Sarah provided about analytical requirements for modern security challenges influenced legislation that funded research programs and educational initiatives based on her methodologies. Senators and representatives who had initially questioned the value of theoretical analysis for practical security concerns became advocates for intellectual approaches to understanding complex threats, after reviewing classified assessments of technological capabilities that exceeded conventional defensive measures. Sarah's influence on military culture extended to recognition ceremonies where analytical capability and intellectual courage received acknowledgement equivalent to traditional combat awards. The establishment of the Medal for Analytical Excellence honored personnel whose intellectual contributions to mission success demonstrated that technical expertise could be as valuable as physical courage when addressing unprecedented challenges. Sarah received the medal's first award, but her greater satisfaction came from seeing intellectual capability recognized as a critical military qualification. The transformation from dismissed desk pilot to strategic leader whose analysis influenced decisions at the highest levels of government represented more than personal vindication. Sarah's success had demonstrated that intellectual capability and analytical thinking were essential qualifications for addressing modern security challenges that exceeded traditional military experience and training. Her career proved that expertise and preparation could create opportunities for contribution that physical limitations or institutional biases might otherwise prevent. Young officers throughout the military now studied Sarah's career as an example of how intellectual courage and analytical discipline could overcome institutional obstacles and personal limitations to achieve contributions that exceeded traditional career expectations. Her story had become inspiration for personnel whose capabilities fell outside conventional military categories, but whose expertise could prove essential to addressing emerging challenges. Sarah reflected on the journey from rejected flight school applicant to Director of Advanced Threat Analysis, with understanding that her analytical capabilities had found their proper application through circumstances that initially seemed like career limitations. The analytical mind that made her seem too cautious for piloting had proven essential for understanding technological challenges that required intellectual capability rather than physical skills. Her career demonstrated that seeming disadvantages could become unique qualifications when circumstances required capabilities that traditional thinking could not address. The woman once dismissed as the desk pilot had proven that analytical thinking and intellectual courage could be as valuable as any traditional military qualification when facing the impossible. Her ability to see patterns that others missed, to analyze data that others dismissed, and to maintain intellectual clarity under pressure had not only saved lives but had reshaped military thinking about the value of analytical capability in modern operations. Sometimes the most important victories weren't achieved through traditional military force, but through the quiet determination to trust analysis over assumption, intellectual courage over institutional bias, and analytical thinking over conventional wisdom. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.